Welcome to Scramble Game Show. Today we're honored and very happy to have a guest. His name is Will Michael, and he's a naturalist. As you know, we all are very concerned about our environment. Will has done a lot of work, research work, particularly in the wildlife. So we would like to talk to him through his work to learn a little bit about our environment, in fact, very local to us in the Somers area. Will?
Hi, Ivy.
Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We are very impressed with your work. I have seen your DVD, and we'd like to introduce your DVD through our public channel, and certainly we'd like to, also learn a little more about you and your work. So would you please tell us a little bit first about yourself?
Sure, be happy to. Again, my name is Will Michael, and for the past 5 years I've been combining environmental science with media.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays computers, television, internet is such a part of our society and culture.
Right.
And at the same time, there's so many environmental issues that are important.
Mm-hmm.
And as a naturalist, I thought the best way to inform a large audience is through television.
Definitely.
And
I mean, we have a living example of Al Gore receiving a Peace Prize, a Nobel Prize. Is all through media and
right.
Work about the environment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in high school, when I was a student,
yes,
it all started with amphibians,
mm-hmm.
where amphibians are a species of special concern right now in the tri-state area, especially because we have a Jefferson salamander,
mm-hmm.
which we'll talk about. We'll see some salamanders in a few minutes.
Okay, great.
This Jefferson salamander is interbreeding with a blue-spotted salamander.
Ah.
And what's happening is a hybrid species is being created. So scientists are monitoring this hybridization to see if we'll end up with a new species, a variation of several species, or
mm-hmm.
will they breed themselves into extinction?
Yeah.
So as a high school student at the time, I found this fascinating.
Oh, yes.
And that's what sort of started me on this path to say, well, there's a lot of fascinating subject matter in our own backyard.
Yes, sure.
And not even far away, right here in Somers, in
mm-hmm.
Yorktown, over the border in Connecticut, where I'm from, Bethel,
mm-hmm.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
So that was the initial topic that got me started in producing a television program
mm-hmm.
to inform our audiences and our communities about what's going on.
Good, good.
Now, the most recent project was done in Somers, New York, with Somers High School.
Mm-hmm.
And I was brought in as an artist in residence in the Somers High School system, working with media students and environmental students.
Right. This is Miss Susan Riley's class?
Yes.
Right.
Mrs. Riley and Mrs. Mafucci.
No, Miss Mafucci.
She was the environmental
mm-hmm.
science teacher. And what we did last year, 2006-2007 school year,
mm-hmm.
we were in the Anglefly Nature Preserve.
Mm-hmm. Anglefly, yes.
From
mm-hmm. September
until May. And the Anglefly Preserve is 650 acres of
wildlife
nature
mm-hmm.
conservancy that is new to the community.
Right.
It wasn't officially a nature sanctuary until
mm-hmm.
last year.
Yeah.
So we created a film that really highlights the diversity of wildlife
mm-hmm.
in this preserve,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and it's accessible to Westchester County, the whole community. So the idea here is to, again, show the community the beauty
mm-hmm.
and the value of this particular
preserve. Yeah.
Yes. And that's been the trend of what I'm trying to do, and we're so far it's been successful.
Right. This is great work and really important work. So shall we take a look some of your sort of
Sure.
recording or photography of wildlife?
We're going to take a look at a two-lined salamander
Yeah.
clip.
Provides an ideal habitat for two-lined
that's it.
salamanders.
Yep. Two-lined salamanders, they're not really uncommon, but they're very habitat specific. And you'll see this is clear water, there's no sediment. And a lot of times if a stream is near a road where the sanding trucks come by, all the sand fills the stream in, and then the amphibian life dies. So we're lucky to have this. And this actually is the start of the Anglefly Brook. This is what the preserve is named after. So two-lined salamander larvae, like these little pools where it's not so rapid. Oh, there's one right there, a larva. This is very small. They live 2 years in this state. You see how small its gills are? Any type of amphibian is so sensitive to the environment that the fact that these are in this stream is a good sign. So, anyone want to hold on to them?
Can you give me some water?
Now feel free to kick over some rocks yourselves. Nothing bites. They can fade out anytime.
We can feed out anytime. Right. This is so interesting.
Yes. Now that was just a small portion
Yeah.
of a 40-minute documentary.
Right.
And that was the two-lined salamander.
Right.
And the Anglefly Brook, it's sort of the beginning of it, which is, as you saw,
Right. Right.
clean water,
Yes.
fast flowing, and that's prime habitat for this particular species of salamander.
Right.
One of the best and most convenient things about amphibians in general is that if you know the habitat, it's easy to bring school groups to the habitat
Right.
and turn over a few rocks or logs or
So you can
some-
observe it. Yeah.
and you can actually see this firsthand. Some of the larger mammals that we have, or birds, they take more time of just sitting
Right,
patiently,
right.
waiting hours. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't.
Right.
But we can't do that with a large group of students
Right.
because we're under time pressure.
Yeah.
But amphibians, personally, they're my favorite anyway.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're easily accessible,
Yeah.
especially during the spring breeding season. In a few minutes, we're going to look at another clip of amphibian activity, this time frogs.
Oh yes, frogs. Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that the wood frog is extremely common in this area, but they're terrestrial. So you don't see them in ponds or in streams or in rivers. They're always on land throughout the spring, throughout the summer, and they're kind of difficult to just find.
Yeah, because they blend into the wood and leaves and so on. And,
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a look
Okay.
in a few seconds, I believe.
And observe the behavior of the frogs that were inhabiting it.
Now, as we get closer, it's going to get louder and louder. It's not coming from this pool. It's coming from the pool beyond here, and that's the sound of the wood frog. So as we get near them, there's going to be hundreds of them, all in the water. The quieter we approach, the less they will be intimidated. If we do make a lot of noise, once we're there and we just sit for a minute, they'll start becoming active again. Yeah, there's one right there. That's a male. The males are sort of a brownish color. The females have more of a pink. And you'll see the females are a lot bigger, and they're filled with eggs. Okay, I see one right here. There's a whole bunch of them. This frog can be in the water and still his vocal sac is not obstructed by the water. If we can come back in May and find the toads, it's really funny because they have to stand up straight like this. And when they're floating in the water, they make this garbled kind of sound. But these guys don't have that problem. Does anybody want to hold them?
Want to hold it? There you go.
Oh, there's two. See, yeah, see, they're all over the place. Whoa, don't move.
Whoa.
There's really hundreds of them around. These males have just emerged from hibernation, and they haven't eaten anything yet. They come straight to the pool. So all this running and swimming and singing is, they're running on fumes here. Okay, this is a marbled salamander larva, and the fact that these guys are here is really, really cool. It doesn't look like much now, but as an adult, it's black and white, sort of swirled blotches. And obviously, this tadpole is not from the wood frog because it's already developed. It has legs. So in a couple weeks, this will be leaving the pond. So they're not competing for the same food. This is the first step in sort of a world of activity that's going to be happening from now all the way until September.
In the end,
So this is also very interesting.
Yeah, and as I just mentioned, that particular frog is terrestrial, but for a 1-week window during the year, hundreds, thousands migrate to these vernal pools to reproduce, lay their eggs, and then they disappear and disperse back into the surrounding forest. So again, the habitat, we know where it is, we know the time of year, and we can guarantee the students to see an event that few have witnessed firsthand before.
Do they remember the spot to come back every year? Or this just sort of random they choose?
It's I don't know if it's memory. Technically, they remember, oh, there's a pond, a vernal pool over here.
Right.
But vernal pools, they do return to the same
Spot.
pool based on their habitat.
Right.
Where these vernal pools some are in highlands, some are in lowlands.
Right.
So if you figure there's no water for 200 or 300 feet around this small pool, at this time of year, during the early spring when they fill with water, the whole circumference, the woodlands, all these
Just
amphibians travel back to
Probably
this.
is just seeking water somehow.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily by memory like some
But
higher mammals
I would say they do have a memory similar to the salmon going back upstream. And this was interesting. There were 2 vernal pools right next to each other.
Right.
And the pool opposite this, there were no frogs in.
Oh,
so there was something about this one that they remembered. Maybe the water remained longer in the pool, and the other one dried out more rapidly.
Yeah.
But there's a degree of memory,
This is really fascinating. So you also, of course, study
Yes, and
you want to tell us a little bit about these,
Sure. When we're out doing field work and then education afterwards, or at the same time, sometimes we stumble upon
these
specimens, and we get donations from museums, and we have just a few artifacts, different types of turtle shells and animal skulls. Now this right here is a box turtle shell.
Box turtle.
And box turtles are common to this area. And when we're talking with students, young students and older students all get kind of a kick out of seeing these things firsthand.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, adults too, I'm sure.
Right. And each one has sort of an interesting fact about it, or something that you can learn and take with you. In turtles, for instance, this box turtle, they can live to be over 100 years old. And the way to determine the age is you look on the shell. Now this shell has been polyurethaned to preserve.
Right.
But you'll notice these little ripples,
Right.
like lines on a tree trunk. And by counting those lines, those are the growth rings.
Ah.
And in each year, that's how much the turtle grew. So this, you can
That's
count 1,
interesting.
2, 3, 4,
How many
etc.
years? Yeah.
Count those growth rings, and then you'll know,
Yeah.
okay, this box turtle was 20 years old.
Right. I mean, speaking of this turtle shell, in ancient Chinese, turtle shells used for predicting future.
Oh,
They read patterns from the turtle shell to sort of correlate to what major events and so on. It's fascinating how that actually was used, because these patterns. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And the intricate design and the colors are just
Right.
beautiful to come across out in the forest. We have a few other specimens here, moving up to the larger mammals.
Yeah.
This is a raccoon.
Oh, that's a raccoon.
And then when we're dealing with younger students, we start to mention some of the basics, carnivore versus herbivore.
Right.
And of course, the students see all these sharp teeth.
Right.
And then we explain, well, is this an herbivore or a carnivore? Is it going to eat plants or meat?
Mm-hmm.
Raccoons are omnivores. They eat pretty much anything.
Right.
But you can obviously see the sharp teeth
Uh-huh.
common to carnivores. The same thing goes to this
So,
coyote
I
skull.
see. They also have that front.
Right.
tooth, yeah.
And then you can make comparisons on eye sockets and jaw structures, and
Mhm.
compare families and similarities. I'm going to
Right.
put these down and just grab these for a sec. Now, if we can get a close-up,
This
we'll
is very
notice
similar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Similar.
they're almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
One is larger and one is smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And those large teeth, those orange teeth, these are both members of the rodent family.
Ah, I see.
And this one over here is a beaver, the largest rodent we have
Right.
in the Northeast. And then this little guy is a muskrat.
Uh-huh.
And in the water, they're often mistaken because they're almost identical
But
from
the
a
size
distance.
is quite different, right?
The size obviously is much different.
Yeah.
And of course, the muskrat doesn't have that flat paddle-like tail.
Mm-mm.
But again, students can actually see the rodent
Mm-hmm.
skeleton and say, wow, no wonder they're all part of the same family.
Right. Yeah. It's very, very similar. Yeah.
And we have not only mammals and reptiles and amphibians and birds, but insects
Yeah,
are another
certainly.
favorite
Mm-hmm.
specimen to document.
Right. Like grasshoppers and
Yeah,
praying
praying
mantises
mantises,
and so
which we
on.
have a nice segment we'll take a look at in a few
Okay, that's
seconds,
Good.
so the audience can see. And
Yeah.
again, when filmed properly, the most common species can be presented in a way to audiences that they may have never appreciated before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And especially when you can get a nice close-up
Yeah.
and see the appendages and the claws and the mouth
Right.
parts.
Right.
And that's the thing we're trying to encourage, is that we don't have to go to the Amazon jungle
Yeah.
to find diversity.
Yeah.
We have it all right here in our community.
Yes, that's great. Yeah. And praying mantis is also fascinating. Just the name itself, and of course the characteristics of
Yes.
what they do. Sometimes you register that's very, very
That's
deeply.
right.
Yes.
And so, yes, macro videography is, from the standpoint of a videographer,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't have weeks on end to get interesting footage.
Right. Right.
And that's why it's nice to be able to just go out,
Yeah.
find a butterfly or a,
Whatever.
I recently
there,
found a
yeah.
rhinoceros beetle,
Oh.
which I hadn't seen one in years around here. And it's about as large as my thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just present these things on a big screen to audiences, I didn't even, wow.
So where did you find it?
This was in Terre Haute, a big nature preservation area in Bethel and Danbury, Connecticut.
I see. Is that beetle sort of harmless to sort of useful plants and so on?
Well, they're harmless. They pretty much sift through decomposing wood matter.
I see.
So they're not a threat to any type of plant.
Right.
But here comes that video segment.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, there, they fast forwarded through it.
Predator lurks. The praying
Almost like
mantis
the-
is
the,
pound for pound
very menacing
one of the
is
most
sort of,
menacing creatures
expressing
on
something.
Earth.
Right.
It waits patiently for a victim to crawl
How much
by.
time do we have left?
Its long, powerful front appendages are lined with sharp spikes. Once in its clutches, there is no escape. Mantises have the ability to fly and come in two colors, brown and green. The female mantis will deposit an egg case on the same stems where she now hunts. We'll keep an eye on her as the year progresses.
You think of anything, Peter?
So that's also very interesting. I think this this documentary ought to be really broadcast, throughout the community and let more people watch them.
Yes, and this will be on in, I believe it's going to air on some of the franchises in this.
Oh yes,
If you want to comment
I have
on that.
sort of requested a airing time in our area throughout Yorktown area. Yorktown actually cover many areas like Somers and Louisburg, and also in the Peekskill area and Ossining and so on. Of course, in the public channel, the way to do this is through residents' request. So actually, you could if anybody wants to have this DVD shown in their community, basically they have to make a request to Cablevision and submit a DVD. They will find a time in the broadcast.
Okay, very good.
Right.
And one thing I'd like to comment on
Yes.
before the show is, before we run out of time, is that this documentary, I'd like to thank the Somers Education Foundation.
All right, SEF. Yes.
SEF.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are very nice to the public
Yes.
schools and
And this video was made possible through a grant by the SEF.
Right.
And it worked out wonderfully for all parties involved. And the one thing I wanted to say is that this DVD not only is just something to be shown as you're sitting on the couch watching TV in the evening,
Yeah.
but it's designed that teachers
Yeah,
or
for interactive. I noticed
you can
that you have
scroll through a
right.
menu,
You have table of
select-
contents and so on. Yeah.
Yes, you can select any of the segments.
Yeah.
So if you're in the classroom doing a lesson on amphibians
Right.
or mammals or nocturnal activity,
Right.
you can scroll to a
Right.
selected scene, show that segment, and there's some information there, and then
So you did all that yourself, right? On the editing part of this documentary?
well, what happened was I was the chief editor,
Yeah.
and with the media department,
Yeah.
not only was I doing the environmental education with the science students, I was also helping media students
Right.
learn the basics of what goes on behind these cameras here.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
so they got practice editing
Yeah.
and running camera and going through content and script analysis and all that good
That's
stuff.
good. In fact, I am hoping to get these media students to be intern for this type of public program. I hope this will work out between Cablevision, of course, supporting, and schools so we can arrange that, because
Sure.
the live show production is the
Oh, yeah.
very, you know, sort of a experience they wanted to have. So
Yes, that's excellent. And in the few minutes we have left, I think we're going to run one last segment.
yeah.
This is a nice mother raccoon with some
Oh,
kits.
Good.
And
Good.
we're going to
I-
maybe fade out with that, but
Right.
we'll air that at some
I
point.
tell you, speaking about the raccoon, this is 2 winters ago in our basement on the ceiling roof, and one panel fell down, and we then discovered it's something animal, and then we tried to find and trace, then go through the ceiling and near the fireplace. Eventually we spotted by the fireplace outside there's a hole, and there were 5 baby raccoons in there.
Wow.
So we naturally called the
Yeah.
what society or some place that get a specialist come in to
Yes.
rescue them.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's,
So, yeah, they're not too much fun to have in your attic or house or garage, but
but beautiful babies.
beautiful. And in the
Beautiful
wild,
babies, yeah. Yeah.
they're always a favorite among any kind of mammal.
Right.
Audiences love to see because they're
Well,
cute and cuddly.
Any baby animals
Yes.
is cute anyway, but these 5 together is really amazing.
So it seems that the audience will see that shot at the end of the show.
Uh-huh.
And
Are we getting?
I think we just have a couple minutes left.
Uh-huh.
So if you have any final questions.
Well, actually, what I hope to do is welcome you back again, all right? And I think this type of documentary work that relates to learning, relates to education, is what the public channel should have. And I certainly, personally, I would like to see that more of it. So if you time permit and so on, we can always arrange for you to come back.
Sure.
Right.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Right. So this show, as a
It's
Scramble.
over.
Looking down
Should I
into the
get out
bottom,
now?
we see our first babies of spring. This mother raccoon nurses 4 kits, just barely able to open their eyes. The name raccoon is derived from a Native American word meaning to feel with the hands. They use their dexterous hands to feel for crustaceans, amphibians, and mollusks along muddy riverbanks and waterways. A distant relative of the bear, raccoons are one of the most adaptive animals found in North America.
Whatever.
We're on.
Yeah. So I know time flies when you have good things.
That's right.
I hope you come back again. All right. Thank you very much to
Thank you,
be
Yifei.
here. And you probably don't know our show in detail, but this show is designed for school kids.
Yes.
It's an educational show. We have these games that we play. Hopefully someday we actually make this game to be really interactive, because it's
Right.
designed that way. You could actually have audience in home, school, classroom, playing with this, with the
Yes.
studio audience together.
That's excellent.
Right.
And if the audiences stay tuned, and this documentary, the full 40 minutes, all filmed in the Anglefly Nature Preserve, will be on the local access station, and even copies in some of the local libraries.
Right,
That if they don't have cable, they can rent the DVD.
Yeah, I'm sure many schools seeing this probably would request, as you say, you can be used as a teaching material.
Yes.
It's very, very nice. Okay. Good.
So I guess we're going to fade it out with a another sample from the DVD.
Right.
And thanks again for having me. And there we go.
Classroom activity where we get brown trout eggs from the New York State Fish Hatchery. We hatch the eggs, raise the trout for a period of 6 months. And this time it was kind of exciting. We released the brown trout into the waters near Somers High School. And it's a nice way to be part of the ecosystem. Just pull, move slow, but pull steady.
Your waiter comes off. You got it, Katie.
Worst thing happens, we both fall in. Try to scoot out the brown trout from here.
Oh, they're coming.
They coming?
Even the local news station showed up to interview the students.
Somers High School.
Yeah? Tell me, what are you doing out here?
I came with my friend as part of the environmental club.
In the water, I had to put on 2 big boots, and it was a good it was a fun experience, but since the water it was really muddy, the boots would get stuck in there, and then you feel like you're gonna fall, you're gonna slip, and then you can't get the boot out.
The neat thing about the anglefly is it has so many different water habitats where it's not only ponds, lakes, or streams, or vernal pools, but the quality of water differs from each. The stream where we're going is very clear water, and there's very little sediment. And with that, it brings a whole new variety of creatures. So that's today's lesson. Diversity in water habitat.
Welcome back to Scramble Game Show. You have just seen a interview with Will Michael, who's a naturalist. I'm sure you enjoyed it. Now the rest of the show, we're going to introduce you a new game. Today we are dedicating our show to Mr. Peter Berkmeyer. Peter was a resident of town of Somers, an outdoorsman, a prize-winning photographer. He served as the treasurer of Somers Land Trust, instrumental in the purchase of 654 acres of anglefly preserve. Unfortunately, he passed away last week. The town of Somers will dedicate a walking trail at the preserve in honor of him. I invite you all to visit the beautiful preserve and take a walk on Mr. Berkmeyer's trail.